last July, and previous to that I was the head of corporate services at the council, so I've been at St Albans District Council for 8 years now, so it's quite a while. I know many of the faces in the room, but not everybody. So Alec and I, yes, as Alec has mentioned, we've been going around and trying to see all of the districts in terms of joining the relevant meetings, and really from a point of view of making an introduction, but giving you that opportunity to see us and make contact, but also to ask those questions that maybe you haven't asked before or that you've been thinking about asking, and now you know the relevant people to ask. Thank you.
I don't know if you wanted to put any help, you might want to give a very quick overview of how you see the Council's priorities, perhaps just over the next year.
So we've got our corporate plan and budget agreed, which that was on the 6th of December last year. We've got 13 priority projects. Only one of those is for you this year. It does include the Harpenden Leisure and Cultural Centre. It does include the Seacoast site, the redevelopment city centre in St Albans. But the new one this year is actually the enterprise zone, and working with Dacorum Council to complete that. I guess top of my list of priorities is to get the local plan agreed and processed. We're under a lot of pressure with a letter from Sajid Javed actually threatening to take over our local plan making process unless we can show that we've got a clear, credible plan to get that in place. Mary is a portfolio holder at district and is working incredibly hard, not just within the council, it's actually working with our neighbours as well, because one of the things that we fell down on was the duty to cooperate with our neighbouring authorities, and we've really got to get that sorted out in order to be able to be confident our local plan will go through without any objections from our neighbours.
Amanda, do you want to add anything?
Well, only from the point of view that the deadline to respond to Mr Javid's letter is the 31st, so we are finalising that letter to go back, and we've had some considerable progress meetings with our neighbouring authorities, as recently as last week, where we've agreed as the South West Task Group that we will work collectively on a memorandum of understanding, and that will be coming to our cabinet in February. So that's pretty significant in terms of demonstrating clear progress from where we were previously. In addition to that, you'll be very aware that we've got the consultation out, and that closes on the 21st of February. And hot off the press, we've had 758 responses via the portal as of today, and hard copies we've had 560 responses and 17 emails. So 1,335 responses in total, which is well ahead the target that we were this time in the last round of the strategic local plan consultation that we undertook. So that's good from the point of view of getting a voice out there. I think the other kind of key piece of work that Alex mentioned that we're striving for at the moment is the Civic Centre Opportunity Site. So we've purchased the police building. We are now going through the purchase of the NHS building. So we're actively working with their lawyers to proceed on that basis. And what that will mean for us is not only the opportunity to develop a key site in terms of both having a south development, so where the police station and the NHS Children's Centre part is, if you know Civic Close well, making that into a clear kind of site in terms of both residential and retail and a public sector hub, but also bringing some of the NHS services into our district council offices, thereby extending our hub provision. As you know, we've already got police located there, and the community central and the citizens advice, so it extends that one kind of hub site for key services.
Thank you. Could I invite councillors then perhaps if you'd like to ask you a question? Don't be shy. Well, I can start off then, because actually I'm quite interested to know a little bit more about the proposed industrial zone you mentioned.
Yes, so that is going to give space for about 8,000 jobs, and it is an enterprise zone. It's one of 24 zones. I think they're increasing, but 24 when I last looked with the government. What we do is that we can offer businesses a 5-year business rate free period. But in fact, we get to retain the business rates at county and district level beyond that for a period of 25 years. That could be worth up to £280 million for the county and the district, that's Corham and St Albans. So it's really quite significant money. Now, some of that, of course, will be required in order to pay for the infrastructure that goes in, perhaps roads and access and those sorts of things. But for us, it's quite a big deal. What we see as a trend in the district is that we see more and more people commuting out of the district for jobs, and so it's important that we try and retain jobs within the district. And the theme of the enterprise zone is a sustainable envirotech enterprise zone, so it's working with Rothamsted, University of Hertfordshire and BRE and the Green Triangle to deliver that. So what constitutes envirotech companies is yet to be clearly defined, but I think we're really trying to put it forward as being a area where we can get a real critical mass of people. We visited Rothamsted a couple of weeks ago, and we can see there they've got incubators for new businesses, and those businesses are already starting to outgrow the space that they've got at Rothamsted. So the next phase, of course, could be the enterprise zone as the facilities built up. What we're quite keen to do is not have a big distribution centre with lots of big warehouses. It's actually, we're looking for a range of jobs, including high quality jobs, cutting edge jobs, envirotech technology.
Councillor Weaver. Yes, Councillor Weaver, please.
Yes. It's Always question, actually. I know the BID initiative is not in your orbit and the council's orbit, but I just want to know, it's been launched, it's been going a year. Is it? Do you think it's helping in the regeneration of the centre, and are there ways in which the council and the BID team work together?
Yes, you're quite right. The BID has been operational for nearly a year now. Yes, we are on the board, so the Head of Community Services sits on the board of the BID, because we are, as a council, we are a stakeholder in that process with the properties that we own in the city centre. And in addition, Councillor Berwick Reed is also the councillor representative on the BID board. So we have an active voice, and we are working together on a number of initiatives, and in particular the Christmas lights were one of the initiatives, but also if you've walked around Waxhouse Gate or any of those areas, the BID has actually done a lot of clean-up most recently in that city centre. So they've encouraged some of the property owners to paint, and then they've helped put some new furniture, street furniture in, and generally tidy up and kind of washed the pavements, etc. So there are active things that they've been doing that are very visible. Their next kind of work will be to really galvanise the feedback that they've had from both the people that are paying into the BID, so the actual businesses, but also the community from these events that they've taken part in, and then to establish what their plan is over time, because they're collecting the money, but they need to set out their plan in terms of their spending profile for the next 5 years, and we'll work with them on some of that activity.
Oh, well, in that case, I'll ask another question. Obviously, very high profile in Harpenden is the new leisure centre and sports facilities, which has gone down very well. People are really looking forward to it. I know it's imminently going to planning. Perhaps just in case not all members know the sort of time scale, and perhaps a bit of an update on the time scale.
Well, in terms of planning, it's actually, the application is lodged and it's in the validation stage. So it's active and it will follow the statutory timescales. Depends what comes out, of course, of the planning process. We will then be looking to move forward in terms of then commissioning the work, etc. But it's a kind of 18-month project, and it's 18.8 million in terms of the work. So we've had some key design phases to go through, and we think we're there, and that's why the planning application is in there. But of course, that planning decision is taken quite independently So we await as much as anybody else putting an application in what the outcome might be.
2 years' time. And I'm just waiting to have the list of questions, so we go. And obviously the local plan is, of course, of concern. People are, I think, getting a fairly good level, getting a good level of response. Hopefully get a few more. And again, it may be, I don't know if all members here know the timing on that exactly, so it might be useful if they had some sense of what that, we hope that process will be.
So, and Mary might want to add into there, but clearly there was the first exhibition for Harpenden was, and I think you were there, Mary, this Saturday, and that seemed to have gone down very well. And we will continue to run the exhibitions during this period of time. We are looking, as I mentioned, to close the consultation down on the 21st of February, and actually we are looking to complete the plan process in 2019. Anything that kind of changes will be as a result of the letter that we put to Mr. Javis this week. But we are making a sterling effort to say actually we are the best people to do that plan, and our progress to date has we feel demonstrates that.
Will that letter be put in the public domain, or is it?
When you write to the ministers, it goes into the public domain, so it will go in eventually.
Yes. No, I'm sure somebody else other than me. Anybody got a question? Yes.
If I could just add that almost unknown in the annals of planning, we've had supportive letters from both our MPs. One has already come, the other one will be coming tonight. From the South West Hearts Group, from Harpenden Town Council, and from HIP, which is the consortium of all councils in Hertfordshire. They're all sent us letters of support to go to the ministry.
Could you just explain who the South West Group is, because I don't think most people around the table will know.
I'm too immersed in this. South West Hearts Group is our neighbours who wrap around us from Dacorum, which is Hemel Hempstead and surrounds, moving down to Three Rivers, round to Watford, and round to Hartsmere. And so they've all they're given us a joint. I believe we've had the letter of support.
I haven't seen it today, but I understand that that's what we're
looking at. So one of the key things that has been asked is that we show cooperation with other councils, and we are demonstrating that. We are demonstrating it by showing their support for us.
Thank you. Councillor Cooley, did you have a question?
Well, I was thinking about, excuse me, I was thinking about how you really do demonstrate this cooperation with other areas and other groups. I just wonder if you could expand a little bit more on that, because you talked about the sort of letter of intent, wasn't it? I can't remember exact words.
Yes, so that was a memorandum of understanding. Yes, so I mean, as part of the new planning process, you have to do a statement of common ground, and so basically that will set out where we are saying that we are positively working together. What does that actually mean? And part of the memorandum of understanding is to actually look at setting out our stall in terms of we've all got our own targets to achieve, but working together particularly on infrastructure. Individually, we won't get much money if we apply to government for smaller plots, but if we can collectively get together and look at where sites are going to benefit from putting in a bid together, we've got a greater chance of getting the relevant infrastructure funding, and that's what's been happening around the country, and that looks like it's positive. So the Oxford-Cambridge would be an example of where they're going for major growth, but it's an example of where, triggered from working together, they've generated more funding. So that would be part of what we'd be looking at, definitely, to where can we join up and work together on those types of things.
Yeah, it definitely demonstrates cooperation, doesn't it? Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? No? What? Lewis. Well, you're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I strongly suspect you'd quite like to get home, but you're more than welcome. Yes, it's council.
I was just going to say, I mean, in terms of asks, we are struggling to increase our recycling rate above 60%. So I don't know what community engagement you might have that could help us do that. But it is something at the moment that's flatlining, but we really want to give it a bit of a push. And we've got some ideas through the council, but anything we can do locally would be good. Second thing is that, of course, we've got the local plan and encouraging people to respond to that. The figures so far are 30 or 40% up now compared with the whole consultation we had last time. So it is good for getting people to respond. I spoke to my daughter this morning and reminded her, so she's going to do it. And the third thing is also we've got a community partnership event conference on the 6th of February. So if there's anybody interested coming along to that. The theme this year is volunteering. Will Hobhouse, who's the High Sheriff of Hertfordshire, who's coming to introduce it, and we've got Richard Sved, who is a serial raiser of funds and community engagement, speaking as well. So we can send you details. It's at Rothamsted, it's just down the road. Starts at 4 p.m.
It's 4 p.m. It's in my diary.
Okay.
Yes, so I think certainly some of us are coming. Yes.
So can I raise a question?
Cooley.
Yes, sorry. I was going to say about recycling, 60 plus. I understand technically there are some problems like Christmas cards with glitter, that sort of thing, and I think that's what's putting people off from recycling more. I know that that's just a small point, but there are other things. You know, some of these black plastics that meat comes on can't be recycled. So I don't know whether, if you want to persuade people to recycle more, whether you could put out some sort of description of these more difficult items to recycle and how you could overcome these problems. You know, maybe we've got better recycling plants. I don't know.
No, I think that's a good suggestion, and I think that you probably see through the community news we issue on a quarterly basis that we have recycling in there every time. But we're probably working on the basics at the moment. We have 25% or 26% of the brown bin waste is food waste, and so if we get people just to take that simple step of doing that, then that will make a big difference. We're also seeing that in some areas like Sopwell and London Colney, the recycling rate is somewhat less than it is on the rest of the district. So again, we're focusing on those areas. We're also working with Viola, doing some door-to-door knocking to encourage people to put out the food waste where they're not doing so. But I do think that black film is one area that we could do it, but step by step, I think we're doing it. I mean, one of the things that we're also doing is actually taking steps where recycling is contaminated, because sometimes it is, then actually being able to sort that out either at the point of collection or at the point of processing to do that.
I think Councillor Gibbs tomorrow, who is the portfolio holder, would like to say something.
I was going to say, obviously we've got community news, and there's actually a dedicated part of the District Council's website which has visual examples, but certainly I think Councillor Clues quite rightly mentions in particular meat packaging. There's always a sort of post-Christmas when people have bought things they wouldn't usually buy. Post-Christmas rush of people suddenly thinking, I'm not sure about this. I have been speaking to a couple of residents actually, including representatives of residents' groups within the town. And one idea I'm going to be discussing with officers later this month is, or in February rather, is the possibility of actually having specific pictures, because I think we actually do have an exhaustive list of all the things you can and can't do. And most things you can. But I think, for instance, when you talk about meat trays, if it's hard plastic that would hold water, for instance, then yes, you can. But a lot of meat is they still use what I would describe as a sort of polystyrene substance, which you can't. So obviously it might be good to have some photographic examples of what you can and can't, because there have been some very specific things mentioned that confuse people. One of the great things, though, is that, as Alec correctly says, there are a lot of things in food waste that actually you don't need to depackage. A lot of people didn't food waste recycle so much because they didn't want to take it out of the packaging, especially if it had gone off or was a bit manky, for want of a more parliamentary term. And actually you can now. And there are actually sites that are beginning to get more and more operational. And where this is actually going on at Aggregat, they're quite keen to get interested representatives of the public to come and visit them so they can see firsthand. So if you would be interested in that, Councillor Cooley, I'd be more than happy to arrange that for you and anybody else who wants to tag along.
Clark, make a comment as well.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just from an officer perspective, particularly recycling, just to confirm that I had a conversation with some officers at the District Council just before Christmas, looking at ways in which we could help channel information for our own social media, because we've obviously got a greater presence now in Harpenden, so we can happily help in that.
Yeah,
and in the same way, the leisure development, I think we've worked really closely over the last 12 months with having monthly officer meetings on that.
Yeah, and I recall in the past, occasionally, there's been a little bit of a road show on the concourse or somewhere, and people have come along to sort of hand out, but to do a little roadshow, so perhaps another one of those sometime might be helpful.
Very briefly, sorry, just sitting down here. Very briefly, I'd like to congratulate the council and on this waste fund, and in particular the councillor who's sitting next to me, and that's not because I'm sitting next to him, for the way it's going. Is there a target we're aiming for that is good and that over the whole district, and are we going to achieve that?
Thank you. Yes and no, in that order. Basically, there is a target which is 60% plus, and to make that sustainable. So actually, we've hit considerably over 60% in some months, which is great, and I think it's something that officers in the district and operatives and residents should all be collectively very proud of. The problem we've got is where there are months that are still low. So, for instance, December is a classic one where it isn't so good, and that drags the overall percentage down. Where I've got the no is that actually across the district, funnily enough, I think we can rather say we'll be a little bit smug, and residents in general, because Harpenden is actually the most even of the areas in the district, all 4 wards, and a very even rate of recycling across the year, and across the different recyclers. There are, as Councillor Campbell alluded to, there are certain areas of the district where we have technical problems, whether that's linguistic. For instance, we have areas where, for instance, the person within a household who might be in charge of organising that kind of thing may have a very limited grasp of English. So, for instance, we've used leaflets in specific languages. We're trying to actually do officer visits, door knocking visits. We've done a lot of proactive things, but unfortunately, in a lot of these areas, it's sort of a limited it's a limited progress because it's hearts and minds, and it's sort of slow and steady. There is a sort of a sting in the tail to this, as it were, that will possibly have to come in very soon. Obviously, that would be for the ultimate discretion of the leader and the then cabinet, and that's that some authorities are actually fining people who refuse to recycle properly, refuse to even try and learn or attempt it, and in some cases refusing to collect their refuse because it isn't actually a legal requirement to collect refuse. It's a legal requirement to offer a service to collect refuse. Hopefully that won't be something we have to adopt in St Albans, but there are lots of other tricks of the trade in up our sleeve yet.
So I just want to say the government collects statistics nationally, and so the top performing authority was the East Riding of Yorkshire, which achieved 65%. And if we achieved, had we achieved 60% in that survey last year, then we would have been in the top 10 in the country. So you can see that we are performing very close to top nationally, and I think we'd be very proud to actually get there.
Yes, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you very much for coming and giving us your time. It was very helpful, and I'm sure very useful as well for people that we don't know to put faces to names.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, moving on. Next item 4 is the mayor's report and urgent items. Do we have any urgent items?
We don't have any urgent items, Madam Mayor.
Hopefully we can have the mayor's report. I was just going to say, well, Christmas does seem an awfully long time ago now, doesn't it? But I had wonderful events to go to over Christmas and subsequent to Christmas, and these included several carol concerts, the Salvation Army Christmas lunch, the Batford Memorial Hall Pensioners Lunch, the Special Olympics, the 69th Gang Show, and more recently the blessing and launch of a new Jumbulance, which was a very impressive vehicle. Harpenden looked wonderful over Christmas with its beautiful lights, and I think the Christmas Carnival was one of the most successful we've ever held, with some 15,000 visitors to the town. And I would like to record a very big thank you to all those who worked so hard to ensure it was a great day, especially the officers here who did work their butts off. I'm very lucky to be able to enjoy such a wide range of events, as are the residents of the town, and I'm grateful to all the volunteers who also make these things possible, and which makes Harpenden such a special place. So a big thank you to everybody. I'd also like to thank those who participated in and supported events raising funds for my nominated charities of the Harpenden Offer and Rennie Grove Hospice Care. In January, yes, we still are just in January, we had a very enjoyable murder mystery for those who were able to make it. It was really a very good occasion. In February, there is a children's film matinee on Saturday the 10th of February with a showing of Despicable Me 3, and although it's a children's matinee, I'm not allowed to attend. I shall be there, so hopefully that will be something enjoyable for families. And in March I'm going to be hosting a seniors' tea at the Methodist Church, where there will be entertainment from the Kings of Hearts chorus, which is a sort of barbershop harmony chorus, which I think will be a very enjoyable event. Finally, on a sad note, I think as many of you, perhaps all of you, are aware, Councillor Lineker's mother died last Thursday, so I'm sure we would all wish to record our deepest sympathy and to send our condolences. And I will be writing on behalf of all of us to Nicola. And I think that's all I've got. So, do we have any public questions?
No, Madam Mayor, no public questions.
And there was there's a little line missing from the order of service, as it were, but I don't think we did. There should be an item saying questions from councillors, and I don't think there are any.
There isn't, no, Madam Mayor.
No. So can we move on then to item 6, minutes of the meeting held 27th of November. Could I ask all members to signify that they are happy I sign these minutes as the true and fair record of that meeting? Thank you. Remember to put the right year in. Yes. Thank you. Can we move on then, please, to item number 7, which is the minutes of committees and working parties reporting to the council. And first of all, could I ask the Plans A committee?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the minutes of the Planning A Advisory Committee meeting held on 19th of December 2017. There were no recommendations to council.
Thank you. And Plans B committee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present to council the minutes of the Plans B Advisory Committee that were held on the 28th of November and last year and the 9th of January this year. No recommendations. Thank you.
Item 7.3, Community Services Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the minutes of the Community Services Committee meeting held on the 15th of November 2017, and there were no recommendations to council.
Item 7.4, Corporate Policy and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to present to council the minutes of the Corporate Policy and Finance Committee held on the 5th of December 2017, to be found on page 37. I have 3 recommendations to put before Council. The first is from the Risk Management Subcommittee, and these are from the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of November. To recommend to Council that the rent register for 2017-18 be approved.
Sorry, for a moment I was struggling to hear, but it doesn't matter.
So can we vote on that, please, Councillor? Thank you.
The second is minute 24.3, the budget for 2018-19, and this will be dealt with under agenda item 11. And the third is minute 24.4, the municipal calendar of meetings 2018-19, and this item will be dealt with under agenda item 15, calendars of meeting 2018-19. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, can we move on then please to item 8, nomination for Town Mayor 2018-19. To receive nominations, would you wish to say anything? No, so can I just ask?
Madam Mayor, thank you. And I would like to nominate Councillor David Heritage as Mayor for 2018-19. I'll speak very briefly. We all know David. He is a stalwart of the Town Council and has done excellent work over the last few years. But not only that, he is a long-standing resident of the town and is a significant businessman within the town with links into our business community. I think he will make an excellent mayor, and would very much like to work with him through next year. Thank you.
Now, Mayor, I'd like to second Councillor David Heritage as being mayor. I think he's done an excellent job as deputy mayor, and I think that he'll continue as being mayor. Thank you.
Could I ask them that we vote on, councillors could vote on this recommendation? Thank you. And then could we move on please to nominations for deputy town mayor for 2018-19?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Brian Ellis for my deputy town mayor for 2018-19. I've known Brian all the time that I've been a councillor, and I think he'd be an excellent deputy for me for the forthcoming year.
Well, I think Councillor Chichester-Miles got that first. We're not Can we vote on that, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that obviously, just for my councillors, we do this now, but then of course there is another formal vote at the mayor making in May. But congratulations to both.
That's fine.
Forward plan is item number 10 on pages 41-42, which hopefully everybody has read. And did you want to say anything about that? I don't think there's anything hugely different. It's really just an update from what is our business. But, if there are any questions, please, councillors, feel free to ask. No, otherwise it's just an item to note. We don't need to vote on it. Right, now we've gone to rather more nitty-gritty for although I think most of us have seen this already, budget report for 2018-19. Would you wish to say?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. So, Madam Mayor, councillors, you have in front of you the budget for 2018-19. Where you're asked to approve the base budget and consider the precept for the upcoming year. As you'll see from the paper, the budget that has gone through the Corporate Policy and Finance and Councillor Maynard sharing that, we're putting forward a new increase in the precept for 2018-19. As ever, the budget has some external pressures upon it, not least around some of our inflation around contracts, but also employee expenses with the normal increments changes, but also the public sector pay award still being outstanding. So we're obviously having to absorb some of that within the budget, and on that particular note we've set that at around 2% at the moment. Of course, it may come back as more than that, in which case we'll have to, within the budget, look at things again, but we're confident that what we've got in there is accurate. And the only other thing I would like to say is I think the ability to have a nil increase comes a lot down to our focus on our commercial income, and this particular budget has seen an additional commercial income of £100,000 in the next financial year, which not only allows us to absorb the pressures that we've got, it also enables us to do more with our resources and to provide even more across Harpenden.
Thank you. Right, any questions? I think we've probably had fairly extensive discussions on other occasions. Councillor Weaver?
No, I'd just like to add to what our town clerk has said. I think it's excellent that looking at what we can do commercially has helped us no end, and that to enable to get a nil increase, which I think is admirable, is great. So thank you to those who've done it.
And perhaps I could also just say, I know as well that obviously the plans manager has done a great deal of work on this, so if we could also record our thanks to him for the work that he has put into preparing this budget. And could ask then that to vote on the recommendations. First of all, that we note the council tax base figure for 2018-19 of 14,023. Thank you. To approve the base budget for 2018-2019 as set out in Appendix 1, totalling 1,013,700. Yes, 1 million, whatever the rest of it. Yes. £13,700. And to approve the Harpenden Town Council precept for the year 2018-19 of £1,013,700, representing a council tax band D equivalent of £72.29. To note that the precept for 2018-19 represents the nil increase on the 27-2018 precept. And finally, that we note the medium-term financial plan set out in Appendix 1. Thank you. Right. We now move on to the important item of the neighbourhood plan report. And could I invite Councillor Ellis to introduce that item? Oh, yes, sorry, yes, just have to get Councillor May not time to get out of the room.
Right, thank you, Madam Mayor. It gives me pleasure to introduce this item. A huge amount of work has gone into this, both by the officers, various working parties, which various councillors and residents have been involved in, and by the steering group itself, which has met several times for lengthy periods. We've been helped in putting this together by Nexus Consulting, who've done the weed shows, who've done similar work in other areas successfully, and we think they're very good, and they've given us some very good advice. I'd like to emphasise that this has had very substantial resident involvement. We've had, as you can see in 3.2, we've had over 4,000 engagements, as it were, which Nexus tells us is high for a place like Harpenden with our population. As far as I can see, there is absolutely no downside to us and the residents approving this plan. We are much better off with this than without it. For example, we've done things like, we can't, I mean, a controversial area, of course, is Greenbelt. We can't allocate, as a town council, parish council, we can't allocate Greenbelt sites. That's not within our power. What we've sought to do is to include contingency policies in here which will deal with those sites or give us some control over those sites, the development thereof, should they be eventually approved through the district's local plans. So I would certainly recommend this to the council, and I don't know if anybody's got any other comments, or if Mr. Cheevers wants to add anything to what I've just said.
No, mate,
No, I just say, I can only speak to the employment and retail board, which I happen to be on. I feel that the whole process that we went through was excellent. We had the public meetings, and then we was taken by the officer, and we had the subcommittee, or whatever we like to call it, was set up, and we thrashed all the things. As far as I could see, virtually every one of those post-its we looked at, and what has come out, I'm delighted to see, has expressed every one bits of the wording, in the wordings here. So that is just one part. That's just the employment and retail. I say it was done with full consultation, thrashed out by the committee well, and what I've seen here is very good.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions? Yes.
I haven't got a question, sorry. I just wanted to support the plan in that we've had substantial resident feedback, and it's really been reflected back into the plan on a number of occasions. So you really can, I really can say, because I'm on the steering group, that this does reflect much of the feedback from the residents.
I've had residents who talk to me, and what I would say is that I've not had a single negative comment. I've had all residents who've spoken to me or come up to me to say about it have recognised its value, have recognised that it will certainly help the town, and I would like to record my thanks to everybody who's been involved in producing this document. So could I then ask if we can go to a vote that we receive the report, and then vote that we vote that we take this forward to approve the neighbourhood plan so that it can be submitted to SADC to commence the examination process that it now has to go through. Thank you. Yes. Councillor Maynard can now return. Right, moving on to establishing a Remembrance Day working party. Oh no, not that this one. Council business plan update. If we can receive an update on the council's business plan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So from page 49 onwards, you've got the periodic updates against our business plan. As ever, it's set in two parts. One is a table containing updates against each of the various activities, and then Appendix 2 has got some of the statistics and performance measures that are agreed in the business plan. And if it's okay, I'd just like to reflect on a couple of those, just to set some things out. So you'll see our commercial income targets are on target, and as we've said in the budget item, they're really, really important to us. In terms of the Park Hall community building, farmers market, you'll see that we've got a high level of uptake in stalls and in bookings, and we're being able to maintain that. In terms of Park Hall, we do have a dip in December, but that's largely because it's closed for a period during that month. But I think we've got some real consistency in there, and we're doing really well. The one other area I'd really like to flag is the comms and social media. So since the Town Council invested in a dedicated officer for this, we've really been able to reach out across our social media channels, but also in other forms through press releases and through the local press. And you'll see from the statistics on social media that we continue to go upwards in engaging new people, but also in terms of those technical folks from the Twitter, tweet impressions, so who we reach when we tweet is increasing, and I think that a lot of that comes down to the content that we're putting out there and having a dedicated person. And the last thing to say on that dedicated person point is under the commons and green spaces, you'll see that our people and wildlife officer is really exceeding any of our targets. She's out there engaging communities, engaging schools, with the view of trying to get people who perhaps don't normally enjoy our commons and green spaces, getting them out in them, getting them to understand the spaces a bit more, and you'll see from the statistics on there that it's really, really amazing. So the number of people engaged in community educational activities, we had a target of 330, and we've had 977 already. And the other one that I think is really good is the local schools. So we're also offering training to teachers to encourage them outdoor learning so they can do some of their curriculum out in the community. And we've engaged 25 teachers on training since we started.
That's good. I think it's, Councillor Gibbon.
Oh, yeah. A couple of points. I would just like to commend you on your social media presence. I have noticed it. Harpenden Town Council have been retweeting my tweets, which is very nice of them, and liking them. So I've seen there's a lot more activity going on the social media on Twitter, so that's good. And also with the Commons and Spaces Officer, I'd like to commend her on the work she's doing as well. And I can anticipate we'd have even more interest as well with the Blue Planet and everything else, and the current environmental drive again. So I can see even more people getting involved. That's good.
Thank you. Right, item 14, establishing a Remembrance Day working party. And I have to make a mayoral confession here that I'm having basically we're setting up a working party to handle Remembrance Day. If you wanted to say anything on that.
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor. So historically, there's been a group of people from the community that have come together from core organisations informally to form a committee, and on that, the Town Council has had representation. One of the leading people on that has said that who chaired it the last couple of years, has stepped down from that. So given the importance of Remembrance Day, in particular in this year, with the various celebrations, we felt it really important that the Town Council helps to take some control of that this year by setting up a working party, bringing those partners together to ensure that the day is still a success as it normally is.
Yeah. And I think you said that it would envisage that it would be probably only one meeting, two absolutely maximum. No, I think as incoming Mayor David Heritage will sit on and hopefully will perhaps chair it, and I said that I'm willing to, and I've got a completely blank moment here. Did I ever have time to speak to you, Councillor Ellis, about this? No, I didn't. I didn't think I had. We were ships that passed in the night. So I'm going to have to do it now on the basis that I know you take an interest in the armed forces and serve on the armed forces covenants. Yeah. Whether you would be prepared as well. It's not going to be very onerous.
Yes, I'm sure I would be prepared to do that. I'd also mention that I'm aware of various events that are going to be taking place in St Albans. And I also met someone from the City of London Corporation recently, and I'll be getting details from her as to what the City of London is going to be doing, because obviously being the premier sort of local authority.
Yes, because this will just be for Remembrance Day.
Indeed.
Yeah, so,
yeah. So they're doing other events.
They're doing other events. That's interesting. Thank you very much. So can I just ask members to agree that? Thank you very much. Calendar of meetings, which you've got the latest edition in front of you. we've had to play around a little bit with a couple of dates. Just never to try, because we always have to fiddle around to fit in dates so we don't get clashes between different authorities. Did you want to comment on this or just?
No,
No, I think it's really the recommendation is that, subject to any comments or observations, the calendar is be approved. So, are there any? Unless anybody has any comments or observations, can we just go straight to the vote? Thank you. Thank you. And then we will just move on to exempt business.